You know, some technologies are so fundamental, so deeply baked into everything we do, that we just assume they're, well, perfect. We build our entire digital world on top of them and never really think twice about it. But what if one of them had a tiny, hidden flaw? A puzzle that's been sitting there, unsolved, for half a century.
Okay, so let's get right into it. We're talking about an algorithm that is literally everywhere, quietly powering our modern lives. And for 50 years, it's kind of been running with the handbrake on, just a little bit, and nobody could figure out how to release it.
All right, to really get what this is all about, we need to talk about the algorithm at the heart of this whole mystery, the fast Fourier transform.
So, the FFT is an absolute titan of digital signal processing. It's the mathematical magic that lets your phone connect to Wi-Fi, lets doctors see inside your body with an MRI, and even helps compress the videos you're watching right now. Basically, it takes all the messy, real-world signals and turns them into clean, organized frequency information that a computer can actually understand.
The story kicks off way back in 1965 with this breakthrough FFT algorithm. It was a game changer. But just a few years later, in 1973, a mathematician proved that there was a theoretical speed limit, a rock-bottom minimum number of addition operations an FFT would ever need. And for the next 5 decades, nobody could build an algorithm that actually hit that limit. Not even close.
And that created this huge gap that you can see right here. Standard FFTs were doing twice the number of additions that theory said was the absolute minimum. It was kind of like driving a car that could theoretically get 60 miles per gallon, but you're only ever getting 30, no matter what you do. That was the puzzle that stumped everyone for so long. So, for 50 years, that gap just sat there. It was basically an accepted fact of life in computing. But then, pretty recently, a new contender stepped into the ring.
And here it is. Meet the Amplitude-Bounded FFT, or AB-FFT for short. It's an algorithm that was designed with one very specific and, let's be honest, very ambitious goal in mind.
And its claim was huge: to do what no other practical algorithm had ever managed to do, to get way, way closer to that theoretical speed limit. So you gotta ask, how on earth did it plan to solve a puzzle that the experts scratching their heads for decades?
Well, the answer is in this really clever new way of handling the math under the hood. It's a technique that finds a new efficiency where apparently nobody else had thought to look.
Okay, the secret weapon is called addition sharing, and the best way to think about it is like this. Say you're making 2 different recipes, and they both need chopped onions. You don't chop one batch of onions, clean the cutting board, and then chop a whole second batch, right? No! You chop all the onions you need at once and just share them between the 2 recipes. Well, believe it or not, classic FFTs were basically chopping the onions separately every single time. The AB-FFT finds a way to do the math once and reuse the answer.
And here's what that looks like in practice. A classic FFT, the old way, computes related things in totally separate steps. The AB-FFT is way smarter. It looks ahead, identifies the common parts of the calculation, computes them just one time, and then reuses that result over and over. This super simple idea of not redoing work is what just slashes the total number of additions needed.
So, the obvious question is, why didn't somebody do this before? Well, because it's actually kind of risky. If you're not super careful, sharing calculations like this can make the numbers inside the algorithm spiral out of control and create all sorts of errors. The AB-FFT's safety rule is something called amplitude-bounding. It's this core principle that makes sure all the numbers in the calculation stay small and manageable, which makes the whole sharing trick work perfectly without messing up the accuracy.
Okay, so with this new trick up its sleeve, how does the AB-FFT actually stack up against the algorithms that came before it? Let's take a look.
This table really tells the whole story. The classic FFT, that's the one from '65, it was a pretty good all-rounder. Then came another one, Winograd's algorithm, that tried to minimize multiplications. But the trade-off was a ton more additions, which is a really bad deal for modern computers. AB-FFT takes the complete opposite approach, which turns out to be way smarter for today. It focuses on minimizing additions, which is the real bottleneck now, and you can see it has an excellent fit for modern hardware.
And hey, that's not just my opinion. The source material pretty much spells it out. The game has changed. Back in the day, multiplications were slow and expensive for a computer. Today, they're super cheap, but moving data around for additions is what costs you. The AB-FFT is an algorithm built for the computers we have now, not the ones from the 1980s. So now we get to the big reveal. We started this whole thing with this huge 50-year-old gap between what was possible in theory and what we actually had in practice.
So did AB-FFT really close it?
Oh yeah, it did. Big time. Let's go back to that performance gap. The old algorithms were using twice the minimum additions needed. Let's call that a score of 1.0. The absolute perfect theoretical limit is 0.5. And the new AB-FFT? It comes in at just 0.625. It has closed most of that 50-year-old gap in a single massive leap.
To put that another way, the AB-FT is now only about 25% away from the absolute, mathematically proven perfect minimum. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a fundamental step closer to a perfect algorithm.
Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, that's a really cool math trick, but what does it actually mean for me? I mean, why does making some foundational algorithm a little bit faster really matter in the real world?
Well, it matters pretty much everywhere. A more efficient FFT means your Wi-Fi and 5G signals can be processed faster, making your connection better. It means MRI scans can potentially become quicker and produce even clearer images. It unlocks more power for scientific research, everything from astronomy to climate modeling. It's one of those invisible upgrades that just makes almost every single piece of our digital technology a little bit better.
Honestly, the story of the AB-FFT is just a fantastic reminder that even the things we totally take for granted, the so-called solved problems, might still have room for a revolutionary new idea. It really makes you wonder, what other fundamental building blocks of our world are just sitting there, waiting for someone to come along and look at them in a completely new way?